and we are on Jazz Street with the one and only Charles Ruggiero. Charles, welcome back to the Flower City.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Home.
Yeah, that's right. Congratulations also on the album as heard on TV, and that's just such a great album because so many great iconic TV shows from the 80s and 70s that folks may have forgotten about and didn't realize those definitely have some jazz thematic elements to it, and you brought it all home to us, even including Game of Thrones.
That's right. And the season finale is tonight.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to miss the show, you can at least come down and see us, and then you can stream that later. So
We're speaking with Charles Ruggiero. So for you, growing up here and playing the Jazz Festival, what does it mean to you?
it's actually really incredibly meaningful, actually. This is my first gig as a leader actually, it's my first time playing in Rochester, New York in about 18 years. So it's a real homecoming for me in a lot of ways, and I'm really it's certainly an honor to be a part of like one of the biggest jazz festivals in the world. So anytime you get to sort of put that on your resume and play for your fans and your home. I mean, there's going to be, I'm sure, a whole bunch of people in the audience. I'm going to have to probably choke back the tears a little bit, between friends and family. So it'll be nice.
We're speaking with Charles Ruggiero here on Jazz 90.1. Give us an idea. What was it like growing up here in Rochester back in the 80s, in the 70s as well, just to meet with your dad, of course, and the whole thing that you saw from the front stage and backstage?
Well, I was really lucky. I mean, obviously, my father being a sort of an icon, certainly in Rochester, gave me a bit of a head start. When I was young, I would go around and see Joe Romano and Bobby Blandino and and a lot of the musicians that my father played with when he was alive, and they really took me in. So I was able to sort of cut my teeth with Terrence Bruce and Steve Curry and Andy Calabrese, like this generation of musicians that came up in the 60s and 70s. And so I was exposed to really high level musicianship, and of course the Eastman School of Music had a big part of that and created a real culture. Rochester's a real music town. So for me to grow up here, I couldn't think of a better sort of start to my career.
We're speaking with Charles Ruggiero here on Jazz 90.1, playing 2 shows tonight at Max's. Can you give us an idea of some of the clubs that you remember playing at as a kid and as well as coming up here in Rochester?
Geez, Milestones was really the place for me. There were a lot of clubs, and in fact, there were a lot of the best music I heard wasn't even at like real music venues. It was at restaurants and just anywhere, like at the street festivals. So we had, but particularly Milestones was like, that's sort of where I grew up. That was my club that I really spent a lot of time with in Rochester and spent a lot of time in Rochester when it was right over here on what's this street right here? I forget. When it was on East Avenue over here, and then it moved up the street some, and then of course around the corner at Richmond's was another really a great lot of great music was made there too.
We're speaking with Charles Ruggiero here on Jazz 90.1. Charles, as a drummer, you can play in so many different styles and genres. Why is it so important for people learning their craft to be able to be so versatile? Because a lot of folks are afraid to step outside of jazz or step outside of rock or whatever, but you have never had a problem with that.
Well, that's a very nice compliment, so thank you very much for that. I always really, for me, it was really simple. Like, I love rock and roll. I love hip-hop, and I love rock and roll, and I love jazz, and I love Brazilian music and samba and salsa and all that stuff. It all moves me. So it was never a thought of mine to like, I want to be a good this drummer, or I want to be a good that drummer. I just wanted to play drums to the music that I loved. So when I would come home after school, I would run down into my basement and put my headphones on and just press play on whatever was in my boom box, and I would play along to whatever it is. So it was a very natural thing just to be a drummer, not to peg myself in a style. Sometimes it works against me. I think people think, oh, that guy can't play this. They see me play rock and roll and they go, that guy couldn't possibly play brushes, or they see me play brushes and they go, that guy couldn't possibly play a heavy metal gig, but I do. So it's nice.
Yeah, We're with Charles Ruggiero here on Jazz 90.1. Last question. What have you been listening to lately, whether it be jazz, rock, soul, or anything?
There's a couple of bands I'm really into right now. In fact, I'm going to give a shout out to a great band that's here in town called King Buffalo. They're a really super amazing, like, sort of, I don't want to pigeonhole them, but they're a rock band. I won't try to explain what kind of rock and roll they are. but they're amazing. Really, really high-level group, and I play in a band called Geezer that has done some shows with them, and that King Buffalo is amazing. I'll give a shout-out to the Detroit Cobras, to the Bird and the Bee, a girl out of LA, from Detroit originally, called Mozella. She's fantastic, and that's and Mount Carmel. Those are the bands I'm listening to right now. None of them are jazz groups, but that's what we're doing right now.
Thanks for the homework assignment. Charles Ruggiero, tonight, 6 and 10 o'clock at Max's. Thanks so much again for all the music you've done and taking jazz further, my friend.
Yeah, baby. Thank you.
All right.